What's up, everybody? We're back with another episode. Today, I have a gentleman that's a part of a team that I've been working with for a few months. We are going to get them to 1 million. They've been absolutely crushing it. They're scaling up. I rock with their, agency owner. They got a few absolute savages on the team leading the way. But I got my brother coming to me today, and he's been doing this thing. So, Paul, thank you for hopping on today, bro.
Absolutely, Trey. Thanks for having me.
Of course, man. Of course. All right. So before we hop in, give a little context, bro. How did you get into the life insurance space in general?
Yeah. So my upline, Logan Harris, we met each other probably 6, 7 years ago. He was a CNA in the healthcare field, and I was a nurse. We became good friends. We linked up after we no longer worked at the same place together, started bodybuilding together. We both had different paths, went our separate ways for a little while. He got introduced into life insurance. He got started into it about 6 months into his journey in life insurance. He sent me a text and said, "Hey, bro, like with our background, I feel like this is something that you'd be really good at." At first, Trey, I'm going to be honest, man. Whenever I seen all the posts and heard all the stories about how life insurance worked, I thought it was a scam,
Mm,
just because I didn't believe the numbers. I didn't think that was possible to do in a week's time. So I pushed it off. 3 months go by. I still see all his posts, still see everything that he's scaling. And I sent him a text back and I was like, all right, man, like, what's the deal with this? So he went over it again, told me how life insurance worked. I decided to give it a shot. I said, what the heck, man? What can I lose? You know?
mm.
And from there, it's kind of just been history.
Yeah.
Numbers are real, work ethic's real. I mean, if you put time in.
Yeah, dude, I actually didn't know that. So now I'm about to dig a little deeper if you don't mind me asking it. So you were a nurse and you guys were in the health field, is that correct?
Yeah,
Okay, tell me how was that, bro? Like what's the biggest differences between what you were doing then and what you're doing now? Because I don't know much about this, but like you make good money being a nurse. Like I know that field can be lucrative as well. So like I guess walk me through some of the biggest differences that you've seen in general between like that space and like this space.
yeah, for sure. So obviously, we had that big spell of COVID come through, right? Nurses were being paid a significant amount of money because of the demand for nurses in that time frame with the epidemic and the pandemic. Not a lot of people wanted to work, and a lot of the older nurses in the baby booming era actually retired because they were afraid of the diagnoses that people were receiving. To be quite honest, one of the main reasons why I decided to pursue life insurance as well, and I still am a nurse, and we'll touch base on that for in a little bit. There's not a whole lot of difference for me because as a nurse, my sole purpose is to provide care, protect, and treat people. I do the same thing in life insurance. My mindset is discover their problem, provide a solution. So there's not much difference for me in aspects of I do it to care for people and their loved ones. Same concept.
Yeah, same principle. You said something that you're still a nurse, and you explain what that means, or go
Yeah,
ahead.
for sure. So when I first started the space, I was a full time wound care coordinating nurse manager. I did that position for 4.5 years. I have just recently, in the past month, dropped my management status to PRN status. So in my first 5 months in the business, I was working 50 to 60 plus hours a week and still producing 30 to 40K months.
I'm excited now. All
Yeah.
right, so let's all
So
right.
even in my current position right now, Trey, where I'm producing the way I'm producing, I still work 3 12-hour shifts a week as a nurse.
Let me ask you a question before why?
Why?
Yeah. Like, dude, like you're crushing it, by the way. Just so everybody understands. We're gonna get into his numbers and like his sales out. But like I genuinely know like why. Is that just because you really love it, bro? Or like
Yeah. So I have a large passion for nursing,
that, bro?
as well as I worked hard for that license. I like to keep that license. In order to keep that license, you have to maintain CEUs, just like life insurance. You have to maintain a certain amount of shifts a month. I do it because I like it. And honestly, my wife plays a big role in that as well. She's she wasn't very keen on life insurance at first until I showed the results.
Yeah.
And then once the results were coming through, she allowed me to take that first step to dropping down from full time to PRN. But she still wants me to pursue the PRN and maintain that status because she knows I do love it. So I do it. I do still have freedom in that aspect of my nursing area just by the way I set my schedule up while I'm there. I still provide myself time to speak with clients while I'm at work. I still have the ability to sell
Hmm.
insurance while I'm at work, really push a warm market, not with residents or client or patients or whatever that is, but family members that come in. They all know I do life insurance. I plant seeds with everybody that I talk to, and I have a good rapport and relationship with family members of people that come in. So I I really run two sides of the spectrum because it's a huge warm market. I
Right.
mean, you have people that come in there where their final stages in life is going to be at this transitional period where I'm caring for them. And a lot of the times their family members or spouses or whomever it may be find themselves in a situation where their loved one is, working through that transitional period into the other afterlife and they're not protected themselves. They utilize me as a resource to find that protection and solve that problem for them. So like I said, it's a huge warm market as well as I just have a huge passion for nursing. I've done it my entire life. I've been in healthcare slash first responding since I was 6 years old, where my mother took me to be a candy striper in the hospital. So it's just
Mhm.
something I've always done, something I feel like I will always do, as well as pursuing my ultimate goal in life insurance, which is becoming an agency owner and running a multiple team, multiple guy team, and just scaling that business.
Dude, I love it, bro. Side note, and I just wrote a note. We're gonna I think we're gonna make some custom leads for you guys now. And I didn't even like for nurses, bro. It's something I don't have context,
Yeah.
but like I'll just keep this on the recording. But dude, like I like when I generate leads, like for you guys, for clients, etc., I like to have a lot of context. And the fact
Yeah.
that you actually, were in the field, I think we can make some banger ads and some really good leads for that demographic. But we'll talk about that at the end. All right. So, dude, that's fire, bro. First of all, I want to talk about, I guess, what is it that you guys are being taught psychologically, and how can we apply that? Can you go through like your sales process from beginning to end, just like each step, how you kind of think through the intro, overcoming objections, building value? Do you guys go into like medical questions? Like, what is your sales process? The reason why I'm saying this, y'all, so you guys have proper context before Paul in, is they are running leads that literally don't have anything but name, email, phone number, and age. There's no pre-qualifying question. And they love it, bro. Like we ran a test, they ran the high intents, and they liked like data showed us that they were crushing it more on questions with leads with less questions. Which if anybody knows me, I'm a data guy. Data never lies. It's like, dude, they were getting 20 packs of this, 20 packs of this, and they were killing it with these. So I'm like, yo, let's just do this. So can you talk about why that you think that is? And then also, bro, I'll let you take the floor however long you need. I want you to just go through the psychology of the sale that you guys do from beginning of the call to the end and just touch on key points that you think, like a master class for agents that don't know anything about how you guys get down.
Sure. So every lead we receive is ran the same, whether it's aged, fresh, very aged. It doesn't matter. A lead is a lead. If you give me a phone number, a name, and a date of birth, once upon a time, that person filled out a form requesting whichever service lead we're running. So the psychology of that sale for me is getting them back into the mind frame they were in when they filled out the form. So most of these people, whether it's fresh, whether it's aged, they've probably been called on this specific service before. I think what separates us is our intro to the call. We try to be different from every other agent. Because if you think about it, most agents' intros to a phone call is, "Hey, Trey? Yeah.
Yep.
Hey, Trey, this is Paul from XYZ company. How are you doing today?" And you got to think they probably heard that line a million times. So you separate yourself. They answer the phone. Hello? Hey, Trey, can you hear me okay? Good, good, Trey. Yeah, I was just making sure that you could hear me okay. This is Paul Kudyba. How are you doing? Good. Good, man. I'm glad glad you're doing well. Thanks for asking me as well. Not a lot of people actually get down and ask me that question, so I do appreciate that. Me myself personally, I'm just trying to stay out of trouble, brother. They kind of get a chuckle out of that. They're like, yeah, I'm just trying to stay out of trouble myself. It's like, yeah, man, I totally get it. So you break the ice originally. Now you're not just another agent calling this person. Once you get a chuckle out of them, they're more apt to hear your pitch of what you have to say. So, once you get into that, I'm just trying to stay out of trouble. They laugh. They kind of say, yeah, me too. Doesn't that typically work for me? I'm like, yeah, all we can do is try, right? Right. So, yeah, Trey, I just want to touch base with you here. We reviewed your file for the IUL that you sent in. Got your date of birth here as 10/12/1960. Your email as blah, blah, blah. Is that correct for you? Okay. Yep. Now, when you were filling out this form, just kind of help me better understand what was your main concerns or your goals, or how did you really see the IUL benefiting you and your family? And then you just sit and let them talk because they're going to provide you with the information that you need moving forward in your sales process. Whether that be, yeah, I just don't have anything in place, or I was really looking for that cash value growth for my retirement. And then once you get that response from them, depending on whatever lead type you're running, us specifically, I run mainly IULs, you can build off of that value. You ask probing questions to where they put themselves back in the mind frame of when they filled that out and their main goals. So if someone was to tell me that they were looking for the cash value, I would build off of that. Okay, well, that's awesome, Trey. I'm glad you were looking into that cash value. A lot of people in your situation are actually really interested in that product and that aspect of the service that the IUL provides. Let me ask you this. Do you have any current forms of retirement in place right now? And they'll answer yes or no, depending on the answer. Okay. If they say no, okay. Well, I can definitely see why you'd be looking into a type of product like this that could build you that tax-free retirement down the road. And Trey, do you have any forms of life insurance in place at the moment? They say yes or no, depending on their answer. If they say yes, they may say, yeah, I have it through my job. I got XYZ coverage. Or they say no. And even if they say yes, that they have it through their job, you can build value off of an IUL or any form of external life insurance outside of their job, because most people don't understand that if they have life insurance for their job, well, they no longer work for that company most of the time, unless you buy them out of their insurance product, it disappears when they no longer work there. And they don't understand that. Most people don't understand that because they were never taught that when they signed up for that service through their job. So you build value off of that. I never go into the script until I can build value off of why they were wanting to get the product in the first place. And then once I can build that value, then it goes into, okay, so your main concern was the cash value for retirement purposes. Okay. Now, Trey, I do want to make sure I can qualify you for this type of product up front. Reason I do that is very simple. If it's not a fit, I don't want to waste your time or even potentially mine. Is that fair? And that puts them in the time frame of time is valuable. I don't want to waste their time if it's not a fit for them, as well as myself as the agent or the producer, my time is valuable. So they start seeing it as, now this is someone who's trying to help me. If they can't or I won't, then we're just not going to move forward in the conversation. And then honestly, 9 out of 10 times the person will say, oh yeah, that's totally fair. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, perfect. So I'm just going to ask you a few basic questions here. Just answer as honest as you can. And then you kind of go into the health questions. And, the way that we structure it over here in our agency is you kind of go through them, not super slow, but in a way that it's not holding up the sale process. So I'll ask them a few questions and say, have you ever been diagnosed with cancer, COPD, diabetes? No. Any liver or kidney disease? No. Any history of heart attack or stroke? No. Any major mental health diagnoses? No. Okay, perfect. So Trey, what's the secret to staying so healthy there? And then they'll tell you, oh, I work out every day, or I eat healthy. I actually had a guy the other day tell me fast food and bad decisions. So it gets people to open up a little bit.
Yeah.
And then after you get to that question, then you get them to laugh. They start opening up and say, okay. And then Trey, how many prescription medications are you on right now, if any? And then they'll tell you. Depending on their answers, then you kind of go into me being a nurse. If they tell me a medication, I already know why they're taking it. Agents who are new may have to ask other questions because they're not familiar with medications and how they work. So for me personally, if they tell me a medication like, yeah, I take atorvastatin, or I take furosemide, or I have metoprolol lisinopril, for me, I already know what those are for. Other agents may not.
Mm.
So when they do tell you that they're taking specific medications, you want to ask them why they're taking them. And like I said, for me, I already know. But for agents who are newer and running these scripts, you need to know why they're taking these medications and what they're used for, because it's going to come into play whenever you get into the medical questionnaire on the application. So then once you get past the medications, next questions, I always tell them, and I do have a few more questions here for you. Do you have a valid driver's license? They'll say yes. Any felonies or misdemeanors in the past 10 years? Some people, depending on what they say, it actually can get kind of funny. I'm like, well, why I need to know that? I ain't had a felony or misdemeanor in 20 years. Hey, man, perfect. I'm glad you've been staying out of trouble since then. That 20 years ago, was that a felony or a misdemeanor? Oh, I had a misdemeanor of speeding tickets or whatever. And obviously, outside of the application asks within the last 10 years. So that's why that question's framed that way. Any felonies or misdemeanors in the last 10 years. Then the last two are rough height and weight, and then a good date of birth. Because on the leads that we run specifically through Lead Labs, we get an age. We don't get a date of birth. So that's how we frame that to get their date of birth to find what product's best going to fit them. And then depending on those questions that they answer, if they're completely healthy, obviously you could get into, okay, so perfect, Trey. I'm glad you're really healthy. Based upon everything that you have shared with me right now, you should be eligible for this type of product. Final decision always does come down from the underwriting, but nothing you've said so far raises any red flags. And that kind of loosens them up. Like, okay, so no red flags popped up. I should be eligible. Gives them more of a reason to stick into this, what you're trying to provide to them. And then you jump into education. Let me ask you this, Trey. On a scale from 1 to 10, how familiar would you say you are with an IUL and how it actually works? Most of the time they'll say, oh, I'm not. I just seen an ad. I was looking for more information on the product. Then you agree. Okay. So you've seen the ad online and seemed like a good product to fit your situation right now, and you were looking to be educated on how it can help you. Perfect. Okay. I tell you what, it's important to me that if you are going to invest in something for yourself, your family, and your future, you do fully understand the product that you are investing in. So what I'm going to do for you is break this down for you in three main buckets. Once you see how those three main buckets work together, it'll all just click for you. And then you run into how the IUL works, the death benefit, the cash value, the living benefits. And then once you explain how those aspects of the product work and how they can benefit the client, almost every time when we get to the end of the script, we ask the question, after explaining the product to you, Trey, and how it does work, would you say that this product does align with your visions and goals? Every time. If you get to the end of the script, every single time they're like, oh, yes, this is perfect. Let's get this done today. Like, I need this. And that's basically where you just get straight into the application. So for me, beginning of the script, or actually prior to the script, is very vital. You have to build value. If there's no value, you just start rambling. Even though the script is powerful and educates the clients on how it can work for them, if they have no value and no why, they're not going to listen to you talk for the next 5 to 6 minutes to get through the script, because what they're looking for is a solution to their problem. They're not looking just to hear someone talk.
Dude, that's huge, bro, because I think, especially with look, the way I hear agents selling now, the most missed aspect of the sale is taking time to actually ask those questions at the beginning, bro. I mean, most of the agents don't do that. You know what I mean? And I think that's what separates what you're doing and like what the team is doing because it makes sense, right? Like without you having to ask those questions, you don't get them on the form, but then you ask them in your sales process. I've always been a firm believer in that, but obviously every agent can't do that. So that's really dope
Yeah.
that you all do. Now, how are you pitching options when it comes to pitching options? Are you like, gold, silver, bronze? Are you like starting at one and like downselling? Like, and what are you saying to that client when you're going through those three options, or do you even pitch three options? What's that look like for you?
So it really depends on the lead type. If I'm running a final expense lead type or a veteran lead type, most of those people are on fixed incomes, right? So if I'm running final expenses, I pitch options, and the way that I get to those options, still the same process. You build value as in why they're looking for that specific type of product. You ask them questions like, oh, Trey, did something significantly happen recently, or what kind of had you feeling like you were needing to get something like this in place today? And then they'll tell you, oh, yeah, I just had to bury my husband, or I just had to bury my mother, and there was nothing in place for them. We had to come out of pocket for 15 and 20 grand. I just don't want my kids to have to do that. Okay. Trey, I'm sorry that that did happen. Honestly, a lot of people aren't educated on life insurance and the value that it can bring to families. So I'm glad you are taking that initiative today to make sure that you and your family, especially your children, if God forbid something was to happen to you, they wouldn't be burdened with that funeral cost. And I would assume that's what you were looking to take care of today, right? Right. Okay. And now, Trey, I don't need a specific amount, but to make sure your family is protected, what is a ballpark number that you are looking to keep this under on a month to month basis? And then they'll give you a rough number. And if they don't, you can ask the questions like, okay, so were you looking at keeping this under 200, 150, 100? And then they'll tell you a number. And then when you get that number, then you provide the three ABC. So bronze, silver, gold. You provide them with those options. And the gold option for me personally, I even keep it under the number that they told me because I'm not trying to upsell people. For me, it's about protecting their family as well as protecting my business. Because if they tell you that they can afford $100 a month, you do want to solidify that that $100 a month is going to be comfortable for them every single month moving forward. And I tell them, Trey, I do want to make sure that that $100 a month is going to be comfortable for you every month moving forward. Because our main goal here today is making sure that if something was to happen to you, your family wouldn't be burdened with those funeral costs. And the reason I'm asking you that question right now is because if you can't fund that amount, the policy itself can't be funded and your family won't be paid out. So I do want to clarify that that amount is going to be comfortable for you. That gives them security. Like, yeah, absolutely. I do want to make sure that my family receives this money, but it also protects your business because that reduces chargebacks. If you try to upsell someone, like they can look in their bank account today and they have, I don't know what people have anymore, but they could have that money that you're pitching them. But next month, they may not have that money. So you do want to make sure that if they're on Social Security or disability, that the amount that you're pitching them is going to be comfortable every month. That protects your business as well as continues to protect that family. Now, when it comes to an IUL, we ask the question towards the end after they've already said that this product aligns with their visions and goals. Then we get into it. Perfect. That just tells me that we are aligned. Then from here, the next steps are very simple. All we're going to do is make sure that the insurance company does agree you qualify for everything we just went over. Now, before we do that, I do want to ask you one quick question so I can structure it for you appropriately. Most people I help in your situation usually contribute anywhere from 150 to 1000 per month, really depending on how aggressive they want that cash value growth. Where do you find yourself most comfortable landing? And they give you a price based on that. And then that sets you up with whether they say 150, 200, 300, or yeah, hey, I was actually looking to invest 2500 a month. So it really sets the stage for
Mm.
them to pick the amount that they want to invest. And then you just solidify that with them. Okay, now try that 200 a month. That's going to be comfortable for you. Okay, perfect. And then I kind of get them into the aspect of once they pick the amount of money that they are going to invest into their product, what we've been implementing more recently is actually from Logan. It is a phrase that we use prior to even getting into the application because you build the trust and rapport with the script and then you want to build more trust prior to going into application. So what we do now, Trey, before we do get into the application and I do ask you a little bit more personal questions, what I'll have you do for me is go ahead and grab a piece of paper and something to write with for me. Okay, give me 1 second. They go and grab it. We don't tell them why, we just have them go get that. They come back. Okay, I got that. All right. Now, Trey, like I said, before we do get in the application, I do want to reiterate I do take my job very seriously. If we do get you approved for this product today, I will be taking care of you for the rest of your life. Anything you need from me, I'm here for you. So, on that piece of paper, I do want you to have some of my personal information. So, go ahead and write down my first and last name. Tell them your first and last name. Second, I'll have you write down my national producer's number. This number basically acts as my social security number for the Department of Insurance. And this number will help you identify who I am and to solidify that I am an insurance producer helping you with the product today. That number is blah, blah, blah. And depending on which source of dialing that you're doing, if you're using, a business line or whatever you're doing, I always give people my personal cell phone number. And then after that number, I'll have you write down my personal cell phone number. Because, like I said, if we are getting you set up with a policy here today, I do want you to know who you can reach out to 24/7, 7 days a week. So my personal phone number is blah, 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 blah. And then under that, Trey, I do want you to write down the carrier that we are going to go through today. That carrier is Mutual of Omaha. And then under that carrier, I want you to circle and write down your contribution amount of $200. That way, you know what's coming out every single month to protect your family or your retirement. So that builds more trust going into the application so that when you do go into the application and you have to ask questions like social or banking, you've already given them some of your personal information. So it relaxes them a little bit more. Like, oh, he's given me basically his social. So when I ask that question, it already beats the rebuttal before it even happens.
Dude, the timing of when you're doing that is what makes the difference. It's
Yeah,
when
for
you're
sure.
doing it. You know what I mean? Like you can obviously there's people that do it at the beginning of the call, but I mean, you think you're 15 minutes deep. They don't remember that. You know what I
No,
mean? Like it's like yeah, well, I gave you my information at the beginning. They're already, you do it
no,
right before you've built
yeah,
it up to where they're like, okay, now it's my turn for you to say, hey, I gave you something, just like in sales, right? You give me something in return, but you start by giving first, and then you
right.
ask and now has built more trust. And for agents that don't know, that's essentially like a very, very, very pro tip in sales to make sure that if you are wanting to get something, you give something first. People are more inclined to open up and be willing to do that. Bro, that's wonderful, bro. I know we're coming up on an hours and time is of the essence, so I even appreciate you. But before we wrap up, I do want to, well, I guess, do you have anything else to say on the sales process that you want to touch on for agents that are watching? Like any other tips, tricks, anything like that?
So, I mean, like I said, I know we've talked about a lot, but specifically for new agents, even if you have a single doubt in your sales process, your tonality and the way you address the conversation can be make or break. You want to sound confident in what you're providing because if you aren't even confident in what you're providing for these people, how can they be confident in you to protect their family? And then on top of the confidence and the tonality, you have to build value. If you can't build value in the first 2 minutes of your phone call, your odds are you're not solidifying that sale. So tonality, confidence, value. You have to have it in every sales call.
100%. I think agents can, if they don't know that, that's a gem they could grab and implement immediately without changing much, even on their script. Even if, they don't ask or they don't give that information at the end right before they ask, or if they don't present options or even do everything exactly perfect. If they just do those three things, that's going to point them in the right direction. I think that's super valuable. Dude, I want to talk about the leads, bro, because I feel like you ran two or three of our lead types. So we have a lot of people that watch this, obviously, and they're like, I don't know. I'm working with my lead company. They're doing okay. I don't know if I should, work with Agent Lead Lab. I want you to first, I guess, how much business have you written off of the leads? Like, what's your best, I guess, month with us so far, business that you've written thus far, bro?
Sure. How long have we been with Lead Labs? 2 months now,
Yeah.
something around there. So I've been in the business going on 5.5, 6 months. So obviously before Agent Lead Labs, I've used other sources. I have a lot of volume. I used a lot of age. So outside of Agent Lead Labs themselves, I do have volume that I run as well. So Agent Lead Labs specifically and the IULs, I mean, dude, it's pretty crazy. So we've our team alone, any specific day, you could have someone that wants to contribute $1,000 to their IUL. And if you think about it, that's 12,000 AP. That's a good payday for someone who's selling that, as well as that family that you're protecting. So Agent Lead Lab specifically, I've wrote 30, 40K just off of Lead Lab leads. And I believe I have like 4 packs running. Like I've only used for 20 packs of Agent Lead Labs,
Yeah.
30, 40K. And, another thing that we implement within our team, when you run through your lead packs and you've ran through them several times and you're not getting pickups, or you've already talked to someone and you got rebutted, and now they know it's you calling and they don't want you to call them anymore. What we do is, and I guess what I do with some people on our team is we swap leads.
Mm.
So I'll give a 20 pack that I had to another agent on our team. They'll give me one of their 20 packs, and it just adds another person calling them to help them with what they were looking to do. So outside of what I've purchased, we've also swapped within our team, and it just adds another person or another voice or another opportunity to protect that person and get what they need in place. And it seems to work out, man. I mean, honestly, otherwise you have a pack of 20 leads that's just sitting there that you're never going to dial again. Why not give it to someone else on your team that's going to potentially profit off of them, as well as you receiving some from another teammate that you can profit off of. So it's more about a lot about volume, and with how we're running the Agent Lead Lab leads, they've been very successful for us.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys are running like a volume intent blend. That's kind of like the play y'all are running, but you guys love it, bro. Like I
Yeah,
was like, all right, man, if it works, that's cool.
yeah,
You guys actually opened up my eyes a lot. I'll be honest. Like I've had a few agencies that like that, but not as much as you guys like live and die by it, which is pretty dope. So I'm like, yeah, let's come up with different leads that we could do for them. Now you got me super interested in wanting to do these first responder, nursing, whatever you want to call them leads, bro. So I'm gonna get in the kitchen and get something cooking, bro. But
yeah. There's a lot of intent behind them, because even with hospital nurses or first responders or whatever it may be, they don't get life insurance offered. And if they do, it's a high price for low benefit. And they don't even understand that once they don't work at that job anymore, they won't have it anymore. Because I'll tell you, when I first started as a nurse, no one told me that when I signed up for the life insurance policy that I had through the job. So it's education. You can provide that education for them, as well as if you work in long-term cares or skilled nursing rehabs or assisted livings, those don't come with a whole lot of benefits. So if you can provide value in what you're providing, I mean, it can go a long way in first responders, healthcare workers, because they need that.
Yeah, that's fire. Now you got me excited, bro. You got me excited, bro. I would definitely get that sauced up, man. Man, bro, I appreciate you for hopping on today, bro. You really, you went above and beyond, but I love it. I know people are really gonna like it too. I'll leave the floor with you to finish out. Is there anything you just want to share? And you can take us home, bro, and we'll wrap up.
Yeah, absolutely. So the way I see this business, you're betting on yourself every day. If you're unsure of what you want to do in your life, whether you work a 9 to 5 that you don't like, you're just doing it because you're comfortable. Why not take a risk on yourself? Because what are you going to lose? Only thing you can do is go back to where you were. So why not take the risk on yourself? Do you want to continue punching someone else's clock, or do you want to build something for yourself, your family, and even potential future generations? So what I'll leave the floor is ask yourself, are you comfortable in your current situation? Do you want to continue to work for someone else, or do you want to build for yourself? Where do you see yourself in the next 10 to 15 years? And lastly, do you want the freedom to be able to work independently where your results are going to be what signify how you're paid? So take a bet on yourself, take the risk. I did it, worked for me. And I'm going to continue working towards my craft and my processes to build that future generational wealth and empire for my family. So it's possible. If I can do it, you can do it. Anyone can do this with the right work ethic.
Dude, 100%, bro. Well, thank you, bro. I appreciate you for hopping on. For anybody that's interested in working with Paul or really likes what he had to say and has questions, reach out to your rep, whoever sent you this or wherever you found this at, and then we'll reach out to him and see. He'd probably be more than open to helping you out or chopping it up. So thank you for hopping on today, bro. I appreciate your time, and then I will see everybody soon.
Absolutely.